Gang Peace, the Street Peace Show is about information to help service providers minimize the elements of violence through their service, through their job, or through their volunteering efforts. And what we do at Gang Peace, the Street Peace Show is share what we've learned over the last 16 years providing service to our community and in hopes that what we can share will help someone who is trying to help another person make it to a better place in their lives do it better. My name is Rodney Daly, and I founded or helped create two organizations in the Boston area to try and prevent young people from dying. That was our ultimate purpose for existing, and that was how we designed our program, to try and stop the social problem of young people joining gangs and hurting each other. Needless to say that that social problem still exists, and that we cannot stop trying to design programs that will effectively minimize that element of violence in our communities. So with that said, today's show is focusing on the makeup of those programs. What about those programs reached people or were able to help someone make it to a better place in their lives? And what process did we use or develop that was able to successfully reach out and help someone else make it to a better place in their life? So first off, I have to say that when we started Gang Peace, it was 1989, and a lot of programs were not around. A lot of programs had not been introduced to our methodology of servicing kids. And so in addition to us implementing a program, designing a program and implementing a program, we had to continue to introduce this new methodology to the current service provider arena. What am I talking about? Well, in the beginning, just the word outreach, which was something that we had to do for a number of reasons, because it wasn't being done at a level where, would you say you have a caller? It wasn't being done at a level where people had it become a normal thing. We had to deal with all kinds of speculations as to what we actually were doing out in the street, mingling with and networking with youth that may have been gang involved or drug users or just out in the general area where most of the community knew that there was crime going on or there was some kind of illegal behavior going on. Well, what is Rodney and those Gang Peace members doing over there? So we'd get a lot of speculation and assumptions as to what we were doing over there. Oh, they must be doing the same thing that those kids are doing, because they weren't used to seeing, you know, outreach counsel advocates, is what we called ourselves, out in the mix. After a period of time of continuously explaining to, in community meetings, explaining in collaborative meetings with other organizations, that in order for us to reach this population, we had to go outside on the corner, on the street where they were, in order to reach them. And we had to have a specific reason for going out there. We had to either have some literature or was passing out some booklets. We created with a lot of other organizations this booklet called Know Your Rights. And we used to go out and pass out this Know Your Rights booklet. It was small enough to fit in your back pocket, so that young people would at least know their rights, because there were different levels of young people out there on the corner. When I mean by levels, I mean that there were those that were out there selling drugs, maybe those that were out there using drugs, and then those that were out there just sort of hanging out because they were friends of the people that were doing drugs. And so, but when the police came, no one was going to differentiate who was doing what. You know, they were gonna, everyone could end up in a group arrest for just being in the general area. So when we did our outreach to them, we needed to pass out this booklet that said Know Your Rights, but we also had to have a booklet that spoke to what is gang peace, what is street peace, why are you here? So outreach was necessary. And I think either last week or the week before, I went through a process of explaining a little bit about the outreach process. Because if you're doing outreach, you don't want to be hanging out there and the police come. Like I said, they're not going to know you're an outreach worker either, even if you have a jacket on or have a shirt on that says outreach. Because nowadays, the very people that are selling drugs will wear those things so that the police will think that there's some positive thing going on over there when in fact there is a negative thing going on. So we would pass out our literature and let people know that where gang peace officers were, and if we recognize any faces, we give them booklets and give them information or try to check up on them, what was going on in their lives at that time, and how we could connect them to resources that could possibly help them stay in school, not drop out, get off drugs if they were on drugs, stop doing illegal behavior and get a decent job so you don't get arrested, doing whatever work you're doing. But the greatest thing that we did is we didn't judge people because we couldn't. However those young people got to where they were in their lives, we weren't there at the time. So we can't come and judge them now and say you're bad, you're wrong for what you're doing. We have to tell them that there's another way to generate cash, not that they don't know that, and that we'll try and help you acquire that job so that you can stop doing illegal behavior. So once we were able to establish good relationships with the young people through outreach, we would bring them in. If you're listening to the program, you want to call and comment, or you want to call and make some, give some suggestions or ask some questions, feel free to do that. The number, once again, is 617-973-4848. The assessment process couldn't really happen effectively unless we were able to establish trust. Trust is a big word. And in our communities, a lot of family members don't even trust family members. So for them to trust a stranger or trust someone that they don't know, that's a big reach. So we had to establish trust. So we had to become trustworthy. And dealing with young people who may already be paranoid because they're either doing something wrong or they may have warrants where the police are trying to get them, or whatever the reasons are, low self-esteem, insecurities, then maybe on drugs. We had to establish trust, because without trust, we were not going to get an honest assessment from that youth as to what's really going on with them. And we needed an honest assessment because we weren't going to be able to provide the services or connect them to the services that they might need without that honest assessment. So building trust, big issue, and dealing with young people in this population. Big issue with dealing with young people, period. But definitely dealing in this population of youth that may be gang involved or may be doing illegal behavior or maybe involved with something other than a positive activity. Trust was a big word. So we had to watch who we were associating with, even when it came to other grassroots organizations, even when it came to other service-providing organizations, because there were many service-providing organizations who had a different methodology about how they were delivering services, and there's nothing wrong with that methodology. However, if the methodology had to do with arrest immediately involving the police department with that population, then we would not be that successful in the program that we had created or designed, because the very people that that population may be running from or trying to get away from, they were standing right next to us. There's no way that those kids were going to have trust in us or give us true assessments. So just like the treatment facilities for drugs, we would deal with their legal issues after we were able to establish trust and get a true assessment. And that's where the case management came in. And that's why the people doing the outreach were called outreach counselor advocates, because they would counsel and advocate to get them through a stable situation. During the process of building the case management direct service part of Gang Peace and Street Peace,